Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Album of Record podcast. We're on YouTube. We're on all your podcast platforms. We thank you for joining us. I'm joined, as always, by Andrew. How's it going, Andrew?
It's going pretty good, Craig. This is my favorite week of the year. I love Thanksgiving week. By the time people hear this, it will be probably the day after Thanksgiving, but also have the Ohio State-Michigan game this week, which I always get super excited for, of course. So feeling pretty good. How are you?
All us former fat boys love Thanksgiving.
Absolutely.
We're really excited this week. We're joined by a guest, Oliver Barrett. He is an artist originally from Cleveland, right, Oliver?
Also a former fat boy.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
All the former fat boys. And we want to talk to you about all kinds of different things, but very specifically because this is a part-time Pearl Jam podcast. You've done posters for Eddie Vedder, for Pearl Jam. We would love to dig into that. But first, a little bit about you, kind of where you're from, how you got into the professional poster art game, I don't even know if you call it the poster game. I don't know exactly how you categorize what you do for a living.
Sometimes it's called that. Sometimes I call it that, and then I wonder if that's the actual term myself. So you're not barking up the wrong tree there. I don't know. Where should I start? I guess I could start at the beginning, like the very beginning.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Well, like I'm one of those kids that's been drawing like his whole life, all through high school, grade school. Like I was drawing like even when I was like, I don't know, as old as I can, as long as I can remember, I've always been drawing something. And like I started out like copying like Marvel Masterpiece X-Men cards in like the early '90s. And I went through high school. I did AP art, and then I kind of went, I don't really want to do anything else. So I kind of put all the eggs in the basket. Went to art school. I went to the Cleveland Institute of Art on the east side. I'm a west sider. So that was like a big culture shock, I guess, going from west side of Cleveland to east side of Cleveland every day. But yeah, I would ride my bike to the Rapid station on 25th, take the Rapid across town, ride to class. I think I want to say it was like the second year there is when I got into doing like flyers. And I started doing flyers for my band, Above This Fire, Cleveland metalcore band, I guess. Still a band. But I bring it up because
what did you play in Above This Fire?
I play bass, and we still play every like I don't know, like once a year.
I'm sure I've seen you guys.
Probably. Jonathan Morgan from Disengage plays drums. You've probably seen them before. But at any rate, worth bringing up because I kind of use that as like a excuse to like do like t-shirt designs and flyers for like class projects when we were doing like the digitals thing. And they didn't really have a name for it back then because it was just like a computer elective because that's how old I am. It was like Photoshop. They weren't doing CS yet. But at any rate, yeah, got a job out of college there, an internship, and I kind of never really looked back. I was doing just like sort of standard like logo design and like your basic like I don't know design agency sort of stuff where you're working on branding campaigns. But I was still drawing in my spare time, and then eventually like I decided that I wanted to break out of working at an agency, and I don't remember where I saw it. It might have been on gigposters.com, which, doesn't exist anymore, but there was like a list or it was on the message board. There was I guess it was like a call for entries for this like Cohen Brothers themed art show out in San Francisco. And I kind of just like emailed just for the heck of it. And they're like, yeah, sure. And I did a print for it and it sold out. And it kind of blew my mind that like that was even like a thing that I could do. Because I'd been like a fan of just like collecting posters like forever at that point. Like I mentioned, like flyers, and it kind of graduated into collecting posters. Like early Derek, or I guess it wouldn't be early. It would be like thousands Derek Hess sort of stuff.
That's where I got my start collecting posters too, was, you know, because if you're from Cleveland, you've been to concerts in Cleveland, especially the heavier bands and stuff like that, you knew Derek Hess. And so I had like the Bark Market poster, and these are some of my prized possessions. The Dillinger Escape Plan poster where the gun is pointing back at the guy. One. Yep.
I had that flyer too, because I didn't want. I was poor, so I didn't want to like actually spend the money on the actual like nice prints. So I just taped all the flyers to the wall. But yeah,
So
like
when
I
I
was.
graduated
Go ahead.
college, I had my first job, and I had real money, and so I was like dropping 80 or $100 on posters, and it just felt good to
Yeah,
finally have some money and spend it on art.
yeah. I think the first poster like that I bought was I want to say it was like 2008 or nine. Aaron Horkey had done this really beautiful poster for Boris, and I'm not a
Yeah,
huge Boris fan, but Torch played that show, and I love that band. So I was like, this is kind of
absolutely.
just like the excuse to spend like $100 on this piece of paper.
Yeah.
But that was where I was like, well, this would be really really cool to get to do this for a living. And that was kind of where I had chased that lead down on that message board, and I got in there, and then poster sold out, like I said, and I'd kind of gotten tired of working at a design agency because I started doing it like while I was in school, so I was like already burnt out at like age like 22. But yeah,
Only 45 more years to go.
yeah,
Yeah,
right,
right.
because that was a long time ago. But yeah, I was like, maybe this is a thing I could do because I did another one with them and it sold out, and I was like, oh man, I'm gonna go for it. And I remember
So what were the Coen Brothers posters that sold out?
the first one was it was a show. It was the name of the show was, I think it was Quentin versus Cohen is what it was. It was Quentin Tarantino movies and Coen Brothers movies. And I had just done the portrait of Jules from Pulp Fiction, and it just has like in tracked out wide future of bold just says, "Does he look like a bitch?" like on his face. So it's kind of like an easy win because it's got a bad word on it and it's got like
Right.
a good enough drawing underneath it that like people were like, I'll spend $50 on this because it wasn't priced very high either.
What else do you need in a poster, right?
Exactly. I still get people asking me about it. But then they, that one sold out, and then they're like, they're going to do another show. And so I did, I think it might have been The Big Lebowski. Yeah, that's just like your opinion, man. That was the
Oh,
exact same idea. And it's like, it's a layup.
yeah.
So that's kind of the thing with that, doing like the pop culture thing is it's like most of the work is already there because if somebody likes the property, like you already have an in. And that kind of makes it a little bit difficult, like to break out of doing that sort of thing if you've been doing it for a while. But that's another conversation. But yeah, I ended up quitting my job to pursue doing this thing. And then I did another gallery show for this Pee Wee Herman thing. And I fronted all this money to pay for the printing because the other two posters had sold out. And I was like, I'm going to print even more of this one. And I put the money up for it. And I sold like fucking 12 of them. And I ended up, you know, after a series of similar mistakes, I had to get another job. And then I ended up getting pushed out and fired out of that job for being an idiot. And I was like, well, I got to figure out how to freelance properly now. And then I had slowly built up this portfolio of editorial work. I had some stuff with ESPN, and I had gotten like sort of a retainer gig with bandcamp.com doing one illustration a month. And that was enough to like build up an actual like commercial portfolio versus like the pop culture sort of gig poster thing that I had been doing.
Was
And I
the
kind of just ran with that.
was
Go
the
ahead.
Bandcamp, was that for their like Bandcamp Friday things that they do? Like when they used to do like they would sell like unique posters. Was that part of that process or
No,
was that
it was for Bandcamp Weekly. It was like it was I guess
okay?
it wasn't really like a pod. I guess it would have been a podcast, but it was just like the header artwork for that week. So it was a lot of just different portraits for different artists. But
Nice.
like I stopped doing it not too long ago, maybe like 6 years ago. So I've done like I don't know, like 70 of those things. But yeah, I kind of built everything up doing that, and then got some work through Mondo, and I started doing some more like movie poster stuff. And it was almost like a backward way of getting into the concert poster thing because those came first. Like all this other sort of screen print stuff kind of was built off of that. So it was like you know, the egg before the chicken in this case. But the way this particular route went was I had followed tons and tons of different artists that had done work for Pearl Jam, and I had I think I might have just sent a message to the guy that like runs all the merch after he posted something cool, and I just said, "This is awesome," and he just replied, "Do you want to do one?" It's like,
Wow.
yes, I would love to do one, of course. And that's how we got here.
So what was the first one you did? Do you know?
It was for Pearl Jam's European tour in the summer of 22 at the O2. They didn't play, but it was at the O2 Arena in Prague, and it was that tour where Eddie Vedder's voice got damaged from like a dust storm or something,
Yeah.
and he
I
ended up
remember that.
having to cancel like 3 or 4 of the dates. And I was flipping out because I don't know what's gonna happen with, yeah, there it is. Like, I don't know what
So
happens
good.
in this case. Like, the show didn't actually happen. And this artwork, I remember I finished this like, I want to say it was like a couple days before Easter, because they have to, they print all of these things for the tour
Hmm.
ahead of time and then go out. And so I have no idea what's going to happen. And I remember Chris, the merch guy, who was great to work with, was like, you know, you're still going to sell these. Don't worry about it. Like, Pearl Jam fans are very serious about it.
Yes.
And I was
We're
super
easy
duper.
marks.
Yeah. But frankly, you're the best, because this show didn't happen. I'm like, I don't get paid any money for this. I get paid from selling the posters, so it's like I have to sell these. And he very quickly was like, "It's gonna be fine," and it was better than fine, because like I put him up, and like again, like I kind of fly by the seat of my pants all the time, just because there's always like too many things happening, and like I'm sure you guys have figured that by trying to schedule this thing and me just being like a whack-a-mole about it. But I remember when I went to list this thing, I was kind of skeptical about it. So I had put it up, and I didn't put in like a ton of details about it. It was kind of like, it wasn't. I didn't make like a whole bunch of social media like teaser posts. There wasn't a whole lot of like hype that I was pushing out around it. I didn't send out like a mailing list ahead of time. It was kind of just like that day, like here they are, and they were gone within like, a half an hour. And it was like that's never happened. Like I've had that sort of reactions, like selling APs to movie posters, but like that's like, I have like 10 of them or 15. Like it's cool. Like it's great that it happens. Like I love a sellout. You feel amazing. But that many was like, it blows my mind to this day. And
You allowed to say how many?
yeah, 100.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, so
And
that's
I know from like, so I'll follow a lot of times because Pearl Jam will always put out the posters on their social media, and they always have links to the artists. And I always like to go and click, and you see like all the artists do their own sales too on the side independently of the shows, and like all of those sell out every time. Like they do their run of 100, and they're like, if you're not on it the day that they go, like for probably like 90% of those posters, they just go immediately. I have a lot of questions about this whole process, but maybe one thing I'd like to just ask from the start is, so okay, so they say, hey, you're going to do the poster for this show. Do they give you any direction whatsoever? Do you have total freedom for what you want to design?
I'd say it's total freedom. You're encouraged to try to tie the city into it, the location into it, but you don't necessarily have to. Although sometimes they'll be pretty like this. Did you do something that fits the city a little bit better? Because on the New York poster, I think I sent like 3 or 4 ideas, and it might have just been one or two. That was 2 ideas first before we got to the monster truck, and neither one of them were really hitting. And like one of them was like, man, I don't know, I think this is pretty good. And I actually like sent it to somebody that lives in New York, and they're like, yeah, this ain't it, man. So I was like, okay, back to the drawing board. Yeah, but like I had to really like take some time, and I don't want to say research, because it wasn't really research. It was more just like taking a breath. It was a meditation, and I was thinking about the last time I was there, and I don't remember what I was doing, but I wasn't really paying attention. And like here in Texas, like the yellow light means go, and the red light means you keep going unless it's been red for like 10 seconds. but that wasn't the case the last time I was in New York, and like I was kind of like almost about to, run this red light, and had to remember to be like, "Ah," like that's you're not in Austin where everybody just drives however they want. And I thought I was gonna get smashed, and I thought about being in a taxi cab, and then I thought about smashing taxi cabs, and then like it was kind of there.
I just like all the Easter eggs because you can see the Dark Matter album cover kind of vaguely in the background.
Yeah, and there was a bit of timing that worked out with this one because I took my kids to see Monster Jam, like, while I was trying to figure out what to
Yeah.
do with this. And then it was kind of like all those thoughts sort of percolated into this. But yeah, to your point, you're the first person to point out that the record artwork is back there. And like
I feel
I
special
always
now.
wonder, yeah, I always wonder if people are gonna catch that stuff because like I really have no idea. I try not to engage in like comment sections anymore after reading some nasty comments over time. So I don't know if anybody catches these things.
Well, that's an interesting question. So, do you take some flack sometimes from Pearl Jam fans, or would you if you were reading the comments? Like,
I was going to ask that question.
Yeah.
is it just not good enough to make a buy or do not buy decision? They actually smash the artwork.
Sometimes I don't check too much anymore, but on this one in particular, I remember I read like the Instagram comments because the band posts it, which is wild to me. Like being tagged in something like that. I remember Blink-182 tagged me 2 years ago, and that was totally insane. But yeah, like sometimes it'll just be some random dude that's like, should have hired somebody from New York. This is bullshit. Blah blah blah. And it's like, well, they didn't. I'm not gonna say
Right.
no. Like I don't care. Like it's a when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, it's like a problem solution sort of thing. So it's like if you're presenting me with a challenge, I'm gonna try to figure it out. Like, I don't really give a shit that I'm not from New York. Like it's kind of the
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
by the way, I'm sorry, Andrew, but if you're listening to this on the audio version and you're not on YouTube and seeing all the posters, I've been pulling them up. You should go check it out on YouTube because it's really fun to bring them up as you're talking about them.
Mm.
Go ahead, Andrew.
I was just going to say, like, I think it's funny because I always do read the comments on, like, so I follow him on Instagram, and I'm not the artist, so I read the comments on all these posters, and I do it because it's funny to me how something so subjective, like, can elicit such strong opinions to people. Like, yes, there are posters I like more than others that they show, but like, I don't think I've ever seen one that I would say is objectively bad. They're, again, everybody has different tastes, but you read these comments and it's hilarious to me the things people find to pick apart these. I mean, they will go down, like, I have seen people criticize like the color choice, that the color doesn't represent the city. And it's like, to me, that's just such a funny comment because I feel like I don't know what city has like a dedicated color to it. You know what I mean? Like, I think any color can represent just about anything if it's done well, if it's well done and represented in the art itself. But so for me, as
Yeah.
not the artist, I think it's funny, but like I can see if you're the artist, it has to just be almost infuriating to like see people project their taste into something that maybe wasn't even your vision to begin with.
Yeah, and the example that's on the screen is a pretty strong one of that. There's the both of the Blink-182 posters from I think it was last year's tour. The first one, it's two rabbits. They both ate shit, and they were riding like they're people with rabbit heads, and the idea is that they smashed into each other, and the wounds on their knees look like the Blink-182 smiley face, and the bikes are on the ground. They're sort of in opposite directions, and they're both like screaming. And the first one, people loved it. Lots of nice things. Again, like I said I don't read the comments, but I read them on this one. I don't remember why. I think it might have been on Reddit. Because I think I wanted to know if the poster was going to sell. Because again, you just sell the posters here. There's not really an art fee. So I'm trying to figure out like if I'm going to be able to sell these or not. First one's going well. About a week later, the second one drops, and people are saying things like, "This is so lazy." It's the exact same poster from Austin, and I'm just kind of like, again, like I don't reply, but in my head I'm like, do you not know what a fucking series is? Like complimenting your artwork, like it's a pair of prints, it's a pair of hairs. Fuck you. Come on. But like,
It's not like, and it's not like you could take those two rabbits and copy and paste. They're totally different rabbits.
But you can see it here, like on the screen for anybody who's watching. Like, if you're a collector, why would you not want each of these? Like, they complement each other. Like, that's just crazy.
I try to see it from both sides after I stopped being so irritated. It was like, well, like maybe they could be like significantly different in a couple of different ways. Like they're very, very similar, fine. But it was like, we've got 6 colors and it's 2 posters on one sheet. Like, come on.
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes the comments bum me out, and I just don't engage with them anymore. There was a couple of years ago where I was getting ready to sell APs from a movie poster drop, and I checked on some message. It was a Discord that I was on, and I was just gonna post it like, "Hey, this is the information about the sale." And what I found was people saying that like the poster itself was like, again, like these were lazy. I guess like lazy gets me going because it was like lazy, mailed it in, blah blah blah. And it was like, this fucking sucks to read. Like I don't even want to like drop this information in here. But after that, it was like I'm not checking this stuff anymore because it was like actually like affecting like how I felt about it. It was like really not even true on any level. It's just a couple people's subjective opinions.
So I'm curious too, without getting into the specifics of the money side of this, but like, so like when you do like for Pearl Jam, for example, you can do your own run of 100, but then they also obviously sell the poster at the shows themselves. So are you getting money on both sides of that when you do that?
It's just like it's the band gets their chunk of the edition, and then like the artist gets like their own set of copies, and like those are like the artist prints or APs.
Right. Okay. Is that way with most bands, or is that unique to Pearl Jam?
No, I'd say that's kind of like the industry standard, but I guess I don't really know if there's like rules to these things. Like it's kind of just all made up on the fly. It's really just
whatever both
your
parties
standard,
agree to. Yeah.
Yeah, and like your standard market supply and demand sort of thing. It's if it's something like this or a Pearl Jam where there's like a huge show and it's at Fenway Park and they have I don't know what the show editions of these what the editions are for the show versions of the prints, but like I get like I don't know, it might be like 5% of that. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
but like that's all I get, and like if they get beat up or something on the way to me, like I have less of them. Like
interesting.
We're not printing any more of these. Like so like because I get that question all the time. Like, do you have any more? And it's like, well, no. And like with the most recent drop, which has just been a nightmare to deal with, a big chunk of them had like a little bit of like a ding in him on the corner, and I'm not going to sell somebody something like that, so I have less.
Well, that's the one. You can send me that one. I'll take that allotment.
No one's really going to notice. Like it's like if I have to replace somebody's damaged poster with this, like I'm transparent about it. But
by the way,
part,
that actually was a magnanimous statement on my part because I did buy the last one from the Fenway show. If you want to send me one of the damaged ones, I'm good with it. It's all fine.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Anyway, no. I'm just joking. It's fine.
But that's kind of the thing with this is like I dropped the New York poster right afterwards because if you wait, like you kind of miss your opportunity because there was a show that I waited on last year for Pearl Jam, and I still have a lot of them. And I think the artwork's fine. I don't think the artwork's the problem. I think I just didn't act quickly enough, and people moved on.
Right.
So, I put these up the day after the show, which is what pretty much everybody does. It's like a day or two, like maybe 3 days max. But I did 2 shows, so it was like the first show, and then I'm wrestling with a bunch of deadlines and a whole bunch of other like personal stuff. And then the second show happens and I dropped that, and I dropped a whole bunch of other, prints that I'd been sitting on. And then kind of the shit hits the fan with a bunch of deadlines. And then like the postal service starts losing my posters like that I'm sending out to people, or they're getting mangled in the process. And I'm having to replace all these things and find people's missing orders at like I haven't gotten all of them out yet, and it's been like twice as long as it normally should be, and it's just kind of like killing me on the inside. But it's like, well, I'm one person. I'm not Amazon. There's
I
only
wonder
so
how
many
many
hours in
people
the
think
day.
like people don't understand that you're just an artist. You are not part of the Pearl Jam merch machine, you know that.
I
And
want to be though.
sure. I mean,
I don't want
yeah,
I want to not get to do these after taking forever to get people their stuff.
right, absolutely. Yeah. It's funny cuz, and we do want to talk about things besides just Pearl Jam, but, because we do talk about Pearl Jam a lot on this show, I am just kind of curious about some of the sort of machine aspect of this. And I'm curious, like, do you sense that when you work with Pearl Jam, the difference between, because like when you go to a Pearl Jam show, like the merch is an operation in and of itself.
Yeah.
It's almost akin to, sort of like a Grateful Dead type thing, or, some of these bands that are like, or Kiss, even like these bands that are just like have an actual, like it's a corporation in and of itself, just the Pearl Jam merch side. And can you sense that when you work with Pearl Jam versus maybe some other bands, the difference between having that size?
I had an idea of that. Because I'd been seeing so many different artists that I'd like for so many years do posters for them because they do so many.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, this seems cool, but like, how do you justify like taking the time to do this, really? And then I got offered that first show, and then I had that experience of like having them go so fast, and the show didn't even happen. It was like, well, this is crazy. And then they played in Austin, and I got a couple of passes for it, and I went. And I'd never seen him before.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a handful of songs that I really like, but I've never really like made an effort to go see him. I've been going to shows since I was like 14. It just never happened. But I went and I was like, holy shit, I get it. But
Yeah.
I really, really got it. Like the entire experience. Like I didn't buy anything, but like I saw all the merch. I saw people. I saw tons and tons of people with tubes.
Yep.
It was like a poster convention in itself, on top of the concert experience, and they were amazing. Like, it was an incredible time. So then I got it. It was like, okay, I see why this people like gravitate towards this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got to do these two posters for this tour, and that kind of made it more. It put more pressure on me, I want to say, because I really wanted to, make some great posters for this band, because again, like I said, like I liked him before, but it's kind of hard to not say that they're your favorite band when they help you support your family. So
Sure.
I
Absolutely.
really wanted to like knock it out of the park,
Yeah.
pun intended. But yeah,
All right, well, let's talk about that one because
That was so
we
good.
talked about Pearl Jam in Boston because I went to both shows,
wow,
and the entire I didn't know the full depth of the Pearl Jam merch machine until Andrew kind of clued me in, like, hey, they open them early on off days and in between days, and so I was there for 4 days. It was like, or 3 days, whatever it was. It was like a Pearl Jam convention the whole time we were there. It was the weirdest thing. You couldn't go anywhere in the city of Boston without seeing people wearing Pearl Jam t-shirts and having tubes and carrying their posters back to their hotel rooms, getting them ready to take on the flights. Anybody who's on YouTube, we were looking at the Fenway poster that Oliver designed. Maybe you could walk us through this one.
yeah. This one I kind of knew right off the bat that I wanted to do like something connected to the first poster with the horse on it, and I think it was more like the New England area. Like maybe I could do like a Sleepy Hollow sort of thing. I was like, no, it's doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It needs more context to the city, and it was kind of like right there in front of my face because there's a Paul Revere statue somewhere over that way.
Yep.
Yeah, it's on the
And
Freedom Trail. We actually
and
did that this time.
Yeah, and there's been a couple other Pearl Jam Boston posters that I've used it. So it was like, okay, this seems safe, and that's a word I hate to use because I try to, take some risks with these things when I do them, but it was like I wanted to do something that really really fit.
When you don't want to go too obscure, I mean, we went and saw the Goodwill Hunting bench in the park, but that one's tough.
No, that wouldn't yeah. But I originally was like trying to figure out like some sort of like big green monster sort of thing, and it wasn't really clicking. I was like, well, maybe like I feel like I get like a mulligan on the horse because like the show didn't happen, even though like the poster, was a success. So I was like, oh, maybe I could just do a couple of these horse things. I actually presented a third one for the New York show, like trying to make it like, a series, and they were like, no, it's too many horses. But yeah, for this one, with the venue being what it was like, okay, this is definitely going to have like as much Red Sox flavor on it as I can possibly stand, even though like I'm from Cleveland and we always get eliminated by Boston, so I don't want to have anybody mistake me for a fan, because I'm not. Again, like, not from New York, not from Boston, but this is the challenge with doing these things. But yeah, originally the Pearl Jam Boston was the Red Sox font, and like I had kind of finessed it into looking pretty good in like an arc like this, and then they were like, yeah, you can't use that, too close to copyright infringement. It's like, okay, it makes total sense, totally fair. And then I found out that you can't actually say Fenway Park on something like this. That's why it only says Fenway.
Oh, because it's trademarked, probably.
Correct. So yeah, there was a lot of like finagling and like really having to figure something out with that the type there, because I tried a bunch of different stuff, and it was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go back to what I had before and try to get it to work. But like I'm
Well,
trying
with
to
that in mind, let's look at this one. This was one of the alternates.
Mhm.
But notice, like, the Citgo sign is genericized. It
Yeah.
doesn't say, it says Fenway, Boston, Mass, just like you're talking about. It doesn't say Fenway Park.
That's such a
Yeah.
like fourth wall crashing down moment for me. That like realizing that
Yeah.
it says
I
Fenway,
love
not
this.
Fenway Park.
No, this is
I love
great.
it. I love it. Like that.
Yeah,
That's
I
like
feel
gonna.
like I shouldn't be talking about it, but it's all there. Like it's
Yeah, for
And I'm
sure.
not expecting you to talk about somebody else's artwork. It just proved the point of all the same rules that you were talking about in yours.
Yeah, and on my Innings Fest poster that I did for 22, the the EV on the batting helmet, it was originally just the Chicago Cubs C with the crossbar added, but it was too close to that was too yeah, there it
Yeah,
is.
I was gonna bring this one up because as a Cleveland Indians / Guardians fan, I was never going to buy this poster, sir, and I was there.
That's totally fair. I
It's
mean,
like total Cubs
well,
lore going on in this
it
poster.
is, but the rain cloud at the top is my my stamp saying that this game ends differently if there wasn't a rain delay.
Oh, that's
We're talking
so
about
good.
2016, because
All right, now I want to buy
I don't
it.
know.
That
Like,
is so good.
I think about it all the time. Like,
Yes,
I feel like our society peaked at that Rajay Davis home run, and
Why
then
is
we've just
it?
been on
Did
this
something happen after that that I don't know
a
about?
whole
What
lot of.
happened after that?
I mean, everything kind of just keeps steadily getting worse after that
did.
happened.
It did.
I'm think about it. It really
You're-
did. Everything just
yes.
very steadily has gotten worse since
Yeah.
that ball cleared the fence. I mean, like that was an amazing moment. But yeah, at any rate,
Hope you're
yeah, look what you did.
This is what this is the price we had to pay for the
Yeah,
Cubs
look
to
what
win a
happened
World
now.
Series. Give me a break.
Great job. But yeah, that's what the rain cloud's about at the top. But the rest of that stuff, I mean, there's a whole lot of like that poster is full of Cubs stuff.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not a Cubs fan, so you gotta do some homework on these
I
things
feel like
before you do them.
I feel like Ed had to love that one.
I've heard he did.
Yeah.
That's also a pretty cool thing, is like I've gotten like forwarded comments from the band about a lot of these things, and they're always
That's
like
so great.
really really cool to see. One of the coolest things I I have is a screenshot of a message I got. I did the poster for the second show of the Cure's US tour last year. It was here in Austin, and the company that did it, Collections, they were the one that put the whole thing together. And they had gotten us passes. We were waiting to get picked up, and I got a message from them saying, "Hey, can you change the background color so we can make a variant really quick? Robert is upset because people can't get the poster.
Wow.
Robert is upset."
Wait, because they sold out of the first one,
Yeah,
they needed a variant.
Yeah, they sold
Wow.
out immediately at the show.
That's
And so
incredible.
we're looking at it on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, the one with the two cats.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh, Robert. Okay, Robert. Yeah, Robert.
Yeah, Robert is upset. The guy that is, perpetually upset.
And not upset with you. Upset
No,
that there's
he's
not
upset.
enough supply.
Yeah, it was a very, very cool thing to slap together while we waited for a ride. But yeah, that was
So then you did was the blue variant second?
Yeah, it was me opening up the original
edition.
Yeah, it was me opening up the print file, adding a whole bunch of different like color choices and sending it off to them, being like, "Pick one, I gotta go."
Yeah,
and that was
great.
That's so cool.
Great.
Yeah, and that was an amazing show too. Like I super grateful for that one.
Andrew doesn't like the Cure,
I'm super grateful.
So I'm gonna call him out right here. He doesn't like the new record. He doesn't like the Cure. I love it, but Andrew doesn't.
I wouldn't say that I don't like them. I would just say that it's not. I don't listen to the Cure a ton, but
I haven't listened to the new record.
Yeah,
it's so good.
I haven't either, actually.
I might not.
So
I tend to skip things and just preserve them as I have them in my head.
That's not a bad way to do it, honestly.
Like there is only one Jurassic Park movie.
There you go. Yes.
I don't know what Jurassic World is. I didn't know they made other Jurassic Park movies. There's only one.
So I'm kind of curious a little bit too about maybe your process in making these posters. So you get commissioned, you're going to do a poster. How long does this take from like they'd say, "Hey, can you make a poster?" to final approval? It's locked in. Like, how long does that take? And can you kind of maybe even just talk a little bit about that process? Do you start like sketching on just a piece of paper, or do you start big? Like how does that all work?
I'd say it generally takes about, if we're using these concert posters as like the example, I'd probably say it takes about a month. And that's like compressing all the time that I work on it into like, chronological order, I guess. So I get the email, I'll get my sketchbook out, I'll start like basically just like writing down whatever pops into my head. And sometimes I stop and end up looking up stuff, and then I'll go back to it. Lately, I've been in this really bad habit of just trying to like jump straight into the computer and like draw whatever like loose idea I have in my head, and it just ends up being fucking horrible every time. And then I have to remember to be like you have like a process for this, you need to follow it. Like you have it like evidence that it works. Like don't try to rush things, because like if you overbook yourself, you're going to start rushing, and that's what I was doing. But in any case, ideally, I'm writing all this stuff down. There's some ideas in there that stick out to me, and I'll start to like make these crappy little sketches in my notebook. They're maybe like, like yay big. And then if something's making sense and clicking in there, I'll draw it a little bit bigger and trying to work out some details. Again, it's all like really, really loose and like not very much to look at. And then I'll take that into the computer. And depending on like how much I've actually drawn, like sometimes I actually will take like the sketch itself into the computer and start like drawing and shaping things on top of it. But for the most part, I'm taking the idea and then grabbing stock photos or sketching or using like big shapes in Photoshop to like block in the composition. And then it's just a matter of refining it from there. Excuse me. But in a lot of cases, I'm starting in black and white, and then I'm thinking about color like as I'm working on it. And like sometimes like maybe if it sticks out, like I need to use red here, I need to use blue to get the idea to work, then the color's in it from the jump. But for the most part, it's it's black and white, and like for something like The Cure or Pearl Jam or Blink-182 or whatever it was maybe like one or two concepts, and then I send those over with some thoughts about what what they are, trying to make sure that like my concept is landing, it's making sense. That is fun to look at. Like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like it needs to be something that I would want to hang on my wall. So I need to check that box before I've even like you know saved the JPEG to send off in the email. But then like once something's approved, it's kind of just like head down until it's done. And if I'm fortunate and there's not a lot of edits, then maybe it takes less than a month. Maybe it only takes a couple weeks. Maybe it takes a week. I've had that happen. But at the end of that process, you have to prep it for screen printing. So there's like another
Right.
layer to it where it's like the artwork's done, technically finished. Like the art making part is done. Now you have to shift into the printmaking part of it. And I try to separate my own stuff for screen printing as much as I can, but I'm not the best at it. And I kind of have to lean on people who are better than me at it. And then they kind of dunk on me a little bit about it because it's like, why do you have it set up this way? It's like, well, this is just how I made it, man. Like, please don't make fun of me. But that's what happens when you hire your friends to help you as well. Cause, you know, I have my friends help me with this stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, and then the artwork gets printed, and depending on what the timeline of that is, like it might show up like a couple weeks later, or it could show up months later. Like for some of the movie poster stuff, like with Mondo and a lot of the other alternate posters, those companies, they'll sell them stuff for like Comic-Con, and then that the actual orders don't ship until this month, and that's just usually because of lead times being what they are. But yeah, the general process, like for the actual art making itself, I'd say it was about a month. But ideally, I'd like it to be shorter than that, just so I could do more of them.
Sure. No, that's cool.
All right, I had another question about like the movie. So you said Mondo. How do the movie posters work? Is that the kind of thing where they have some kind of an event or a movie release, and then you work on a poster? Is the copyright similar where you can sell a limited run that they print for you, or could you make any movie poster you want at any time?
The answer to all those questions is yes, but then there's like ethical, legal, murky places. The first part where it's like what the poster is for, it's originally these things were made to celebrate like an event, a special screening, an anniversary release, soundtrack, that sort of stuff. But the way it works is like you buy a license from whoever holds the property. So like if it's like Warner Brothers, like you're paying Warner Brothers to put out a Batman poster, and it might legally, like you can't use like any actor's likeness in it. So it's like you can make a Batman poster and you can sell it. It's an officially like licensed product, but you can't use Christian Bale. Like you can't name any other Batman, George Clooney. I don't know, but yeah. Or you could just make whatever you want and put it up in your web store and hope nobody gets a lawyer after you, because like technically like you could get smashed because you're making bootleg copyrighted material without license. And that's what those those shows that I mentioned earlier with like the Tarantino thing, like those weren't, there's no license for those were sort of like tribute, and I don't know if that makes it okay or not, but like it seems to you know keep everybody safe. So
Well, and venue matters too, as I've noticed by going to various art festivals around suburban Cleveland in the summertime.
yeah.
If you're selling in a booth, you can get away with a lot more than if you're selling it online, where it's very, very
Yeah,
visible publicly.
very, very, very true. That's why you go to like the comic conventions and it's just filled with people just making their own Spider-Man prints, even though
Yeah.
Marvel's
No,
like
I'm sure
literally,
they've got the
literally right
copyright
there.
to do that. I'm sure they
Yeah.
got permission.
They asked, well, Stanley's not around anymore, but maybe they asked him when he was walking around.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah, go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, you.
I was gonna like, they weren't always tied to some sort of release. It's sort of like, okay, I know you guys have a Warner Brothers license. I have this idea for this poster. Would you want to make it? And then they go, yeah, because if the artwork's good, they already have the license from some other thing. They're able to, pay for the printing. They pay me a little bit for the artwork, and then they can, sell these prints and sell a ton of them and make some money. And then I get a little bit of those, and then I sell those for aftermarket price, depending on what people are pricing it on eBay and other places. Because again, like if it takes me a month to do something, like I have to try to get that investment back. And the art fee doesn't. It's like rare for that to cover it. It's awesome when it does, but like it's not like it's not really expected most of the time. But then if you're talking about stuff that's for studios, that's a little bit different, because then it becomes a like ownership and usage and different sort of like visibility things. Like whenever you end up doing like key art for something, like the artwork that shows up on when you're looking on Amazon, or you see it on a billboard or on the wall at a movie theater, that's a little bit different because those pay the real big bucks.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, you've been
Still
very
waiting to get
generous.
one of those for a movie anyway. I got to do some Walking Dead stuff that was great.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, I would like to do that again. Just putting it out there into the, space-time continuum.
Speak it into existence.
Exactly. Just like I did with the Odell Beckham trade. And then it didn't work out.
Yeah, yes. Not so much.
Yeah.
Before we let Oliver go, Craig, did you want to talk about the Cleveland scene?
Yeah, I was going to say, you've been really generous with your time, but we can't let you go. I've been searching while you've been talking. I have been listening, but I've been searching. I cannot find an online version of the Scene magazine cover when the Cavaliers won the championship, but it's the Larry O'Brien trophy with the different Cavalier players' faces inside of it. Obviously, that is near and dear to my heart. I've got a couple of copies of that probably fading in my closet upstairs. Just for us, for Cleveland sports fans, to have an actual championship, and your artwork was a really, really cool, awesome part of that.
Thank you. I would pass along a JPEG of it, but I can't find it either. And there's a thing about that project is, like, I was a season ticket holder at the time, so that whole year was, amazing. Again, everything.
Yep.
Afterwards.
Yep.
So we had those watch party tickets for Game 7. So we were in the building when that happened. Then we were downtown after they won, and like, I had such a good time. And then I remember I got home and I had an email from Vince at Scene, and he goes, "Hey, I know this is an insane ask, but is there any way you could put something together for our release on, what did they come out, Wednesday?" And this was Sunday. This was Sunday night at probably like 2 a.m. So we'll just say it was Monday.
Yeah.
And I don't think I actually saw the email until the morning. And I was like, well, yeah, I'll do it. Sure. And then I was trying to figure out what to do. And it just kind of, I don't know, it made sense to try to cram them all into the silhouette of the trophy. And then I realized that I had agreed to draw 16 people in like a day.
Yeah.
For a free magazine.
That's insane.
Yeah, and I watched the Jake the Snake documentary. I think I watched one of the 3 Lord of the Rings, and like something else. Like I stayed up all night to do the damn thing. Because I wanted, there was the parade, right? The parade, I think the parade was either that Wednesday or Thursday. It was like, they wanted it for the parade. That's what it was. So I stayed up and I did the thing. And they're all pumped and I'm happy with it. At some point, I saved over the file with the flattened something. Like after I'd sent it off, I think I might have been trying to like save, like, I don't remember what I was doing, but I was exhausted at that point. So there's not like an actual like high res of it anywhere, because somebody else had asked me like afterwards, and I was like, oh my God, what the hell have I done here? And then when I went to the parade, I was so damn tired that I ended up going home and just watching it on TV.
Yeah. But, it's one of those things, like maybe that's just the way it was meant to happen,
Oh yeah, I ended up not feeling good. So it was meant to be, I guess. But yeah, I had a few of those around the house that I don't think I ended up bringing with me. Like I don't think I have one in the house. So I'm gonna have to try to track one down. But I'm sure the photo or the JPEG of the thing exists somewhere in my inbox.
Yeah.
So I'll have to find it.
That's just such a cool thing, not only to have the team win the championship, break the curse, just be a part of that moment and then be like, oh yeah, your art gets to help commemorate that too. That's just such a cool thing.
Yeah, it was cool to be downtown that day and like see it everywhere on top of like everything else that was happening.
Sure. Cool.
Was there anything else that you'd like to highlight? Anything else you want to talk about? This has been so cool for us.
Yes.
I just want to make sure you get what was the Pearl Jam poster that you hadn't sold out yet?
It was for the United Center for 2 shows last year, and it's a cool thing. Like Eddie Vedder had asked for me to do this portrait of his friend that passed away, and she's on the Let's Play 2 documentary, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know what you would call that thing. The live show.
The live album.
And it's cool.
Sure.
Yeah. And she's on it a bunch talking about them and like the venue in Chicago and all this other stuff. So like it's an illustration of her, and like her shirt is like the sky, and like the bar that she owns is like where all the information is. And like again, like I think it was super cool that like they asked me to do that, and I wasn't going to say no, and I ended up not listing it right after the show for a couple of different reasons, and none of them are good. So I still have a bunch. I'm not trying to desperately plug it. Maybe it was priced too high. I don't know. This was last year when everybody was selling things at about this price, and I kind of just followed the market. And
sure.
Now I don't.
Did I get it up on the screen? Is that the right one?
Yeah, that's it. That's the
All
right one.
So folks on YouTube, if you've never done anything for any of us, go buy yourself a Pearl Jam poster.
And it'll go out right away, because I'm still trying to get all of the other posters out that still need to go out. We're almost at Black Friday, and I can't have another sale while I have outstanding stuff to ship.
Yeah, you start out being an artist, then you turn into a shipping and processing plant, right?
Mm-hmm. Eventually, I get some helpers. Well,
Oliver, this was absolutely awesome. My goodness, you're not going to believe this. Guess who's got?
You found it.
I got a copy. I've got an image. I must have had it in my email from Vince, because I was doing the Scene podcast in those days too.
Cool.
I'm going to send you the highest quality version of this. Might have been me capturing it off of the screen on Scene magazine at the moment, but I have it.
Cool.
There we go.
Oh yeah, there it is.
That's it.
That's so great.
Man, I remember like just spending way too long on trying to find like the right photo of LeBron to use, so that it just filled up that half of the basketball shape at the top.
You got so many faces in there. It was just
It's
unbelievable.
incredible.
Yeah, even James Jones got on there. What's the one guy's name that like never played but wore glasses? There was Mozgov's friend.
Drawing a blank on him. I know who you're talking about. Was Jordan McRae? Was he still on? Was he on the 2016 team? Is he in there?
Yeah, he's in there.
Yeah.
Dante Jones is at the bottom.
Pretty sure that's got to be Williams. The only poster Jordan McRae has ever been on. I'm pretty sure.
Probably. If I ever find that file, I'll dig his picture out and send it to him.
Yeah.
Oh,
but I'm not going to find it. It's gone. It's long gone.
Well, anyway, we want to thank everybody for tuning in today. We appreciate Oliver spending so much time with us, and we appreciate you for listening, for watching on YouTube, for doing all the things that help us make this podcast grow. We have the greatest time doing this, as you can tell. So thanks so much. We hope you enjoyed your Fat Boy Thanksgiving. We'll talk to you next week, where we're a week late. We're going to talk about the 30th anniversary of Vitalogy, because, as you know, this essentially is a Pearl Jam podcast, even though we talk about other things. So thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to you next time.